will last forever. Together forever. This will last forever. Joined together when God is joined together. Nothing or no one can put us under. This will last forever. Together forever. This will last forever. Joined together when God is joined together. Nothing or no one can put us under. This will last forever. Together forever. This will last forever. Joined together when God is joined together. Nothing or no one can put us under.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Marriage and Ministry. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, go ahead and like, share it, and we want to see comments in the comment section. I want to know what you think about what we're talking about. I want to know how you're feeling. And go ahead and also put you and your spouse's name and your anniversary date. We want to be praying for your marriage as well. I'm excited about my show today. I have two people who I know you'll love, and we'll learn a lot for them. Not because they're like the smartest people on the planet, but because they're already laughing. They like to share their insight and encourage others, not only with their relationships, with their professions, with their gifts and talents. And so I know that you're going to glean a lot from my guest today. I have Malcolm and Yolanda Logan with me. Listen, go ahead and help me welcome them. I should see clapping hand emojis, woohoo, celebration emojis. And so Malcolm and Yolanda, thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite.
And so do you all know why I invited you? Why I wanted you on the show?
Because you ran out of couples.
I told y'all they're going to keep us entertained. No, it's because I admire you both as individuals and as a couple. Now, our girls are same age and running some of the same circles. So I'll be zooming past you all, right, leaving, going, or asking you to grab one of my children on the way, right? Because
all the time.
I can't get. You'd have to emphasize that all the time, Yolanda. But so I know profession, marriage, family, balancing all of that. You kind of have the same workings, that Jason and I have to figure it out. But then you all serve so diligently in the church. And you do it with a smile. Malcolm has made us laugh twice already, and the show just started. And so I'm hoping that people can glean from your relationship and can glean from your counsel, no pun intended, because Malcolm is a lawyer, your counsel on marriage, and no official counsel, but just through our conversation. Sure. So let the people know, how did y'all meet? Like, when did it start? How long you been married? Who threw the first shot? How did it go?
I'll go first.
Okay.
We met in 1996 in college. I was a senior at UNC Chapel Hill. Yolanda was a junior at ECU. And we met at a mixer between my chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha and her chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha at a party. And she shot her shot. And
I knew that was coming. That was the story. How did I know that was going to be the story, especially when he volunteered to tell it first?
Right. So. She tends to let me go first. So we got married 3 years later. 3.5 years later. 3.5 years later. So this summer is our 25-year wedding anniversary.
Oh, y'all, let's celebrate 25 years. That is awesome. Y'all don't even look 25 years old.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is so
And that's
awesome.
how old we were when we got married.
That's right.
So y'all were 25 years old when you got married. You're about to celebrate 25 years
That's right.
Wow.
Yes.
And so just what are lessons? Like if you had to just summarize the greatest or most impactful lesson that you've learned over these 25 years, what would yours be? Malcolm and then Yolanda.
Marriage is harder than you think it's going to be because everything seems easy and smooth. I presume at the time that you get engaged and get married. Otherwise, why would you make that investment? And you have the expectation that things will stay that easy because up to that point in time, you all are pretty aligned on things. So if I were to look back at 25-year-old Malcolm and be like, this is going to be much harder than you think. So be prepared. And it's not a function of who I married. I think it's just a function of marriage.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, and an understanding that it requires continual investment and revisitation of the relationship, the proper grounding for us in the church, and always trying to be present and checking in on where your spouse is on things.
What do you think, Yolanda?
I think the same thing because when we got married at 25, we were both grad students. And so the first 8 years of our marriage, we were grad students. Well, yeah,
Wow.
at least, well, good portion. Well, let me say this. We didn't have kids until 8 years into our marriage because we were grad students for so long at the beginning. And just recognizing, and I think we see it more now than we did then, that the challenges that come help you to grow and to grow together because we were in grad school when 9/11 happened. And maybe what we were thinking about career-wise, job outlook, all of that drastically changed. And that was even before we finished grad school, just a few years into our marriage. And so very early on, we had to learn to pivot and support each other. For me, choosing a residency to where we're going to live, to him then trying to find, his first job within that environment or that climate.
Right.
And so very early on, I think, we had to buckle down and work together to face unforeseen challenges. So I think that's what it is.
Because hard is not, you all are not strangers to hard. So, you talked about 8 years of grad school and with your professions, Malcolm being in the law field and you being in the medical field, those grad programs, tend to be more intensive than others. Grad school in itself. And so you're not strangers to hard work and you're not strangers to challenges.
That's right.
So, but when Malcolm talked about marriage is a different type of hard, what did you learn about yourself through the hard of marriage that grad school didn't teach you, that being online didn't teach you? Like, what did you kind of learn? And you kind of hinted to that with talking about growing together. But what are some other things that the, school of marriage taught you?
That's on you, bro.
You first.
He said, bro.
He did say bro. Trying to think what was the first thing that came to mind as you asked the question. I think really Malcolm hinted to this too, just being grounded and rooted, for lack of a better word, and that's probably the best word, rooted in our faith, rooted in church. Because as we decided what our career moves would be, where we would live, where we wanted to be, we were moving around quite a bit. And every time, it didn't matter where we moved, the first thing we did was, looked at each other and said, okay, where are we going to go to church? We have to figure out where to go to church. And Malcolm grew up Presbyterian, I grew up Baptist, we ended up in non-denominational, sometimes Presbyterian, all across the board. And very different churches, looking back on it all. And some of them, because, they were Presbyterian, he had connections with them, we immediately felt like we were at home. And then there were some places that we moved to where we had to look around for a little bit and search for the right place for us. And so, but at the heart of it all, that was kind of almost the first thing we did wherever we moved. And it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was home and like we were going to be there and do this thing together until we found that.
And that's really good. So, for those who are tuning into the show, Yolanda brings up a good point about having a foundation that you can build on. You all's was church. And I think personally, that's the strongest foundation, period. Your relationship with Christ. But you need to have some kind of foundation that both are building on. And so that's good because y'all foundation came from literally your foundation, your upbringing. It wasn't something that you had to guess if he was going to be interested in church or if you thought church was important. That was important from day one, and that is what y'all built on.
Exactly.
So that's good, having something to build on.
And then also to that point is the examples that were set for us in terms of marriage and relationships. And so as we celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary this year, my parents celebrate their 50th. And I can't remember how many years yours.
Put me on the spot.
But his parents are a little older. 50 plus. They're a little older than mine. And so, but for that reason, we've had great examples of what, marriage can look like, should look like, the ups and the downs. We've seen it all, and we've seen everyone stick it out.
Yeah.
And that, when you don't have to be concerned about that, it allows you to continue walking through what's new to you.
Right.
And having that as an example for you.
That's good. Malcolm?
The thing that I think distinguishes Marriage Hard from other forms is that we are attuned to try to find ways of making ourselves happy and finding those things that bring us gratification. If I'm hungry, I'm gonna go out to the restaurant of my choice and eat what I have an appetite for. In marriage, you have to find happiness in bringing fulfillment to another person. So Yolanda may have an appetite for Mexican on a night that if I was eating by myself, I'd go get Thai food. So it's the sacrifice that you have to make to step outside of yourself, that you don't really have that sort of challenge you may get an assignment at work that you're not tuned to, but presumably you have a job that you applied for because you're interested in that field.
Right.
You took the classes in areas that interest you. But marriage puts you in a position to have to find gratification and make investments in things that you're not naturally inclined to do. TV shows you may not want to watch, trips you may not want to go to, family reunions you may not want to sit through, whatever the case might be.
Well, I just feel like he has examples and scenarios running through his head.
I'm just running through some things. How to get that off my chest. The point is that is distinguishable from other areas of your life because you have to do things in service to someone else.
Right.
And ultimately in service to Christ. So that's kind of why it goes back to her point.
Right. And that is a good point. And marriage takes sacrifice. And a lot of times we don't mind sacrificing when we see how we're going to benefit from it. Like you sacrifice in grad school because you're going to get a degree and it's going to land you a good job. But in marriage, when you feel like you're sacrificing, you're giving up for something or someone that may not be giving into you at that point, it's feel like you're losing and not sacrificing. And we have to change that mentality. And so I want to go back to your parents, 50 years, 54 years. So you all have seen marriage done well in front of you for a long time. Now, did you bring some things into your marriage from your parents that you saw quickly that you had to adjust and define Malcolm and Yolanda? Like it couldn't be Mr. and Mrs. Logan, and it couldn't be, I don't know your maiden name.
Evans.
It couldn't be Mr. and Mrs. Evans' marriage. This is our marriage, and we had to adjust and define us.
Yeah, we did. And I think that through our parents, we have examples of things that help strengthen marriage, but we also learned some of their bad habits and brought those as much into the relationship.
Right.
Saw the ways that they communicate with one another or did not communicate, the way that they assign responsibilities in the home, the way that they parented children. So it wasn't just kind of the positive takeaways. There may have been some things that some negative characteristics and behaviors that we experienced and absorbed and thought that it was normal or that it was going to work in our relationship. In general, I would say that you just have to navigate what's best for your circumstances. It is not uncommon where we will be parenting our children, and Yolanda will refer back to how she was raised, and I say, okay, but this is 2024.
Right.
These kids are different nowadays.
Very
right?
different.
It's different,
It's
right?
different,
You can't
right.
touch them. They're going to TikTok that you just put them on
Right,
timeout. So those lessons are good thematically, but we have to live it out in different ways. So that's more of the kind of the detail actualization of some of those lessons. But in general, I think it's just good as a guide, but not try to fit yourself into the mold of what worked for another couple. And that's just as true as anybody who's been on this stage with you. You know,
Yeah.
what works for them may not work for every situation, but hopefully there's some things you can take away from it.
Right.
And then one
That's
thing
so
to add to that is, as much as we took things away from our parents, maybe from an individual perspective of who we are, our parents were also phenomenal at letting us have our space
That's good.
to be a couple, to figure things out. And this is a testament to both sets of parents. They never meddled and, never got involved in anything. And it wasn't that they were not always there, always supportive, always present for all the big moments. But at the same time, they always let us do us.
That's good.
Let us be the couple that we were destined to be, and they gave us our space always.
That's good. So y'all don't have the in-law horror stories. That is not your story.
No.
Because that's good.
We are very blessed to have good relationships, and they like each other. Our parents have spent time together.
Oh, wow.
And they have a good relationship as well, and they support each other, and it is really like one big family.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's really good. So 8 years pass and you bring children into the mix. And so you add other people to the equation and you're trying to settle with you two, establish careers, I can imagine. What were some life lessons that you learned from that stage of marriage, of bringing the girls in, and then career-wise, anything that sticks out now that you can encourage the people with?
Give yourself some grace
That's good.
Yeah.
when it comes
Definitely.
to parenting. What I came to appreciate, so how old would that have been when we had children?
30. How old were we?
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe 34 when we had Chandler.
That feels right. Is just because I remember when I was a child, I thought my parents were so like mature and like understood, had it all figured out, and I was like, they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
They were younger than we were, and they also didn't have a manual, and the things that we were exposed to, both good and bad, they had never seen before. So it seemed like they had all the answers, and understanding that they didn't, but that wasn't transparent to me, gave me some patience with myself in terms of my experience with my children, not always feeling like I had to have all the answers, knowing that just providing them with an opportunity to succeed, to feel like they could communicate with us, to help them develop a relationship with Christ, and then build a community around her of people who can support them and pray for them has been really important for us.
That's good.
Yeah, and especially talking about the first one, having the first child is very early on, I felt, because Malcolm's parents are in Maryland and we were mostly in North Carolina, I would say, but I felt that it was very important that our kids were with their parents who lived away just as much as the local parents, or grandparents, I should say. And so that when we needed our space and our time and we needed to go, get away and do something just for us, that I felt completely comfortable letting Chandler go stay with, my in-laws or her grandparents. And that was one of the most important things. I think we took our first, maybe I can't remember which anniversary it was, but we took our first anniversary trip when she was maybe about 2. And it was really hard for us to be away from her, but at least we felt comfortable doing it. And I think they actually took her to a family reunion. And just the thought that even when she wasn't with us, she was really immersed in
Right.
family.
That's good.
So
Yeah, that's good. And so, if I gave you all a do-over card, can you think of anything that you would use it on, like it may be a situation, a decision, an event? It could be a family vacation. Like that was a horrible idea to go to the mountains in July, and we all got poison ivy, whatever. Could you think of anything, or you are anything you would probably use it on? You appreciate the lesson learned and whatever happened. Can you think of things, because when Malcolm talked about telling you these kids are different and you can't do that these days, I just imagine him holding your hand back. You got a belt in your hand like you about to test somebody else. Like, you can't. But we learned along the way and was like, oh, if I had a do-over, I would have done X, Y, Z differently. Is there anything? And it doesn't have to be.
I think it's mostly, there's things that you may have encountered that you wish hadn't happened or had gone differently, but that has put us in the position that we're in today with what I believe to be a healthy marriage. So there's no development without those trials and tribulations.
That's good.
Right? I think Pastor said when he was talking about how oysters form pearls, and it's through irritation. And if you don't have that experience, then you don't develop something beautiful. So there's certainly, things that, given the opportunity for a mulligan, we might revisit. But ultimately, this has put us in this place we're in today.
Yeah. How many places have y'all lived?
5 or 6.
at least 5 or 6.
I thought y'all was gonna say 2. I thought it was Charlotte and here. Oh wow.
Raleigh, Charlotte, St. Louis, Newport News, and then Chapel Hill.
Do y'all have a favorite place?
What do you think?
Maybe Raleigh.
Raleigh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the city of Raleigh. I like Charlotte as a city. I like the cost of living of Rocky Mount.
Yeah.
We're a Tabernacle Church. We didn't have that anywhere else. Honestly, that's the sort of thing
Right.
that you think about now.
Right.
There are things about each location that we cherish and like. So I think any of them at a different time. Maybe we could do without St. Louis.
Yeah,
How long did
maybe
y'all live there?
Just a year.
a year.
Oh, okay.
But while we were there, my sister came out to visit and met her husband there.
Oh.
So we can't do without St. Louis.
You can't do
No.
without St. Louis.
No.
My car got stolen. We could do without St. Louis.
But he got it back.
I did.
Yeah, you can't do it.
It didn't look the same, but he got it back.
My sister-in-law
brother-in-law.
found her the love of her life.
And I got 2 nephews out of
And we
it.
have-
So
yeah, 2
okay.
nephews.
You can't do without St. Louis.
Good
That's
point.
right.
Oh, wow. That is so good. So 25 years. What are y'all looking forward to in the next 25 years?
So because we got married at 25 and we're celebrating 25, this is the year that we both turned 50. And so I think there's so much that we're beginning to appreciate with that, because I know I remember very vividly celebrating my 40th birthday and to think I'm already here at 50. So I think we think about it a lot in terms of individually what's next, and definitely as a couple in terms of just maybe starting to look towards retirement. And because we did wait a little later to start our family, and so our girls are relatively young for our age. As they reach new milestones and levels of independence, then we can think even more, maybe than ever before, about what does the future look like for us as a couple. And very excited about that.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yolanda has always been better for the 2 of us of thinking about what retirement looks like, or, what is the end to which we're working. And as the girls have matured and it's become clearer that they won't be in the home for but so much longer, that has put us in the position to start having more direct conversations about what we want, not just our lives to be like then, but even now, because it's so easy right now for all of your time and all of your conversations and all of your gas and all of your money to be spent doing things with the kids.
Yeah.
So we've been very intentional about, look, we can't wait for them to be out of the house, to take our trips, to have our conversations, to eat our meals. Like, y'all are grown, stay home. We'll be back. Where you going? We're going out.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. We can't wait until they're gone to do those sorts of things. So just adding on to her point, being in a position where our time can be more our own as a couple, certainly still, caring for them and nurturing them and supporting them, but not having it dominate our time like it does right now.
Right. Are you all finding that you're discovering new things about yourself as you get older?
Definitely. I can't run like I used to when I was 40.
You can't run like you could
I'm a
last
great
week.
walker now. But
And I still can't keep up with you walking,
but yeah, definitely. And that in and of itself, because I think one of the things, we talk about thriving in all areas, right, as a church. And I think, again, because we were a little bit older when we started our family and realizing it even more now, that we always wanted to be fit for them, fit for our kids, to be able to do things with them. And so now it's kind of the balance of, maybe we're not as much as we want to be as fit as we always were, or as we were 10 years ago. It's catching up a little. And so that, looking at that in terms of where the girls are, because they're kind of like, they're soaring now, as they should be.
Yeah.
And we want to continue soaring with them. So we're definitely learning a lot about ourselves as we age, for sure.
Malcolm?
I am learning that I have not done a really good job of keeping up with what I like to do. I know what I spend my time doing, mostly work. I know that we are involved in the church and we spend a lot of our time thinking about and doing things for our children. But if I was given a week and a reasonable budget, what would I do with that time? Would I spend it at home working on house projects? Well, that's not really fulfilling. That's how I spend my time now because it's one of my responsibilities in the home. Would I go play golf? Like, I think for me, it's just figuring out what Malcolm likes to do for fun. Instead of what Malcolm feels obligated to do, that he has convinced himself he enjoys doing.
Which is everything.
Right.
I mean, which is.
Right.
I may become, last weekend I was in Charlotte for a fraternity conference. I still find that fulfilling. I think it's both the community service aspect of it, the altruism of it, the community I have with brothers, the sense of kind of leadership and giving back. But at the same time, it's still not necessarily like me-centered. So for me, it's just kind of figuring out what that is. Is it running? Is it cycling? Is it who knows what, right? It might pick up an instrument or something. But not the male choir.
Right. I was about to say, we may have a recruiter for the male choir. And so when I look at both of you, you seem similar. Like you look like, y'all could be brother and sister. You're professional, but I can imagine, or y'all different?
Are we different?
We're very different.
Y'all very different.
Yes.
Yeah. I think different personalities, but very similar interests.
Okay.
As he talked about the fraternity and just being very as involved in the community as we can be, and supporting other people. We've always done that through the years. We've had friends to stay with us when they were studying for like a major exam or and when we go to each other with that, we say, hey, I have somebody who really needs this without a question. What can we do to make it happen?
Right.
And so that we're very similar in.
I think we have different personalities. We do enjoy hosting people, both actually physically at our house and then also just being supportive of people. I think we have a similar spirit of generosity. we've been together for so long, though, it's hard to distinguish between what we've just started doing together.
Kind of growing into.
Because we move through the world in the same ways, but certainly, in social settings, we have a very different way of interacting with people. She's more outgoing than I am, as you can tell. So that's just one example.
And I would have thought the opposite.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Most people do.
I would have thought the opposite. But I do want you to spend our last few minutes looking into the camera, and if you were counseling a couple who's having a difficult time right now, all they can focus on their differences. It seems like, coming together as one, growing together as you all. It's kind of been the theme of our discussion today, growing together. What would you tell them? How would you encourage them?
I think I would say definitely when you struggle, you have to go back to where it all started, where you fell in love, where the things that made you inseparable. And I think back, there are times I just reflect on just literally I can feel myself at the altar. I can feel what that moment felt like. And just thinking back on that and that commitment, that is what helps, us stay grounded, I think, together.
That's good.
Yeah, I would say it's important to choose who you spend your time with and around. Build a village of like-minded individuals, people who are pouring into their marriage, people who are going to check you when you're not making smart decisions or good choices, who are going to point you back to the things that Yolanda just spoke to in terms of keeping grounded in your marriage and just being more conscientious about the folks with whom you surround yourself. You may have been close to them for years. They may still call on you for certain things, but that doesn't necessarily mean there needs to be reciprocity there. And go to people who are going to give you the answers that you need, not the answers that you want when it comes to your marriage.
That's good. Well, thank you. Look, we're out of time. That went by so quick, but I thank you all for sharing your experience, sharing your counsel with our marriage and ministry audience, because I'm really hoping that people see marriage it should not be like everyone else's, it should be theirs. But you can be encouraged from other people, just like Malcolm talked about, surrounding yourself with people who are going to pour into you, who are going to check you, who are going to hold you accountable. And so thank you all so much. Listen, don't you appreciate the Logans being with us today? Go ahead and let them know in the comments that you appreciate their time. And so I'm going to pray us out, or one of y'all want us to pray for all of the couples who are watching and everybody who's watching, because we found out that we have just as many singles that tune into marriage and ministry than we do married couples, because they want to prepare themselves for marriage. And I just think that is remarkable.
That's awesome.
And so, we want to cover our audience. So. You
got it.
Okay. All right. Oh, thank you. Nobody's ever reached out for my hand before, so thank you. Lord, I thank you for our time today. First, I put a holy bubble around the Logans. I thank you for just their transparency, them sharing, encouraging, and we come against any weapon that would try to come against their marriage. I thank you they will grow stronger, and as they celebrate 25 years of marriage, they will have a testimony that their latter years are far greater than their former. And we pray for every couple that's represented by those tuning in, those connected to someone on the stage. And we just pray that your favor will rest on them and that your glory will be evident in their union. We thank you for the institution of marriage. You created that with a purpose. And I pray, God, that as we venture on this journey, as Malcolm and Yolanda both have reminded us, it's a journey that we're ever growing, that we will never outgrow. Help us to be grateful and gracious. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all so much. Listen, share this with others, like, comment, post it. We want marriages to be encouraged. Tune in next time to Marriage and Ministry.
No one can put us under.